Okay, let's unpack this one. The sources you've shared today, they really jump into a compelling and maybe a little provocative idea.
Hmm.
It's from Law 7 of Power. You know the one. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Yeah, that title definitely grabs your attention. It sounds pretty harsh up front.
It really does. But okay, the mission for our deep dive today, looking at these sources,
Yeah.
is to get past that initial, maybe, shock value
Hmm.
and understand what this principle actually means.
Right.
Because the core idea, it seems, isn't really about being lazy, not at all. It's fundamentally about leverage.
Strategic leveraging.
Exactly. Strategically using the skills, the energy, the knowledge of other people to push your goals forward. And, this seems key, controlling the story around the result.
That line you mentioned from the material really sums it up, doesn't it?
Let them sweat while you shine.
It's interesting how this law sort of flips the script on how we usually think about power. It's not just about how hard you work personally.
Yeah.
No, the sources argue it comes more from, well, smart delegation, being able to pull together influence from talented people, you know,
Uh-huh.
and then positioning yourself as the one who kind of owns the final win and the credit that comes with it.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to explore, what this leverage actually looks like, why trying to be like a one-person show can seriously limit your impact.
Hmm.
We'll dive into some pretty striking historical examples from the sources, too, people who really embodied this.
Oh, yeah, there are some good ones.
And crucially, we need to talk about how you navigate this effectively and maybe even ethically today. That's important.
Definitely. And the risks, too. The sources point out some traps to avoid.
Right. The pitfalls.
Mm.
And then we'll try to leave you with some concrete ways to maybe start thinking about this now.
It really does challenge that whole idea of the lone genius, you know,
Mm.
the person who supposedly built everything themselves through just pure grit.
Yeah, it suggests that real power often comes from being more like the director.
The connector of other people's talents, exactly.
Okay, so if the law is get others to do the work, what does that really mean according to your sources? How is it different from just being, well, lazy?
Well, that's the big distinction the sources make, isn't it? It's not about avoiding work entirely. It's about focusing your work where it matters most, the highest leverage stuff.
Oh, okay.
Success, the material argues, is almost never a solo act. The really powerful people, they build systems, they build teams, networks of skilled people, they act as the hub, directing the energy.
So you're not necessarily digging the trench, but you're the one who drew the map and told everyone where to dig.
Precisely. Your value isn't in doing every single little task. It's in the vision, the direction, assembling the pieces that others create. You curate, you synthesize, you decide where the whole effort goes.
Which brings us to a really critical point the sources raise. Why is trying to do everything yourself actually so bad for building power?
Well, it's just basic limits, right? Time, energy, focus. They're all finite. If you're personally stuck in every single step, you just hit a ceiling fast.
You become indispensable, but in a bad way.
Exactly. Paradoxically, it limits you. You can't scale, you can't chase bigger things because you're bogged down.
And while you're buried in those details, doing it all yourself, what are you missing?
The big picture.
Yeah.
The strategic view. You're like too busy chopping down one tree to see the whole forest, or more importantly, figure out where the forest should even grow next.
You're tactical, not strategic.
Mm-hmm. And there's a social thing too, mentioned in the sources. Doing everything yourself can actually make you seem less important.
Really? How so?
Yeah, people might see you as like a hard worker, skilled technician maybe,
Yeah.
but not necessarily as a leader, not someone who can manage complexity through others.
Oh,
That ability to direct, to delegate, that often signals higher authority. The sources put it bluntly. No one remembers who wrote the speech.
oof.
They remember who delivered it. The power is in that final ownership, the presentation, not necessarily all the little steps to get there.
That's a really powerful point. Your own brilliant effort can just vanish
Yeah.
if you don't position yourself to own that outcome, the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of owning outcomes, the sources have some amazing historical examples. People who totally mastered this.
Yeah.
Who stands out?
Well, Thomas Edison is kind of the classic case study here. We think Edison, light bulb, phonograph, right?
Yeah, the inventor.
But he wasn't just tinkering alone. He built Menlo Park, this huge research lab. He
Yeah.
hired brilliant engineers, scientists. They did a ton of the actual groundwork, the experiments, the failures, the breakthroughs.
Yep.
Edison was the conductor. He set the goals, directed their efforts, and then, crucially, he was the face, the name associated with the invention. He owned the brand, the credit. completely.
Right, directing the orchestra, taking the bow, like you said.
Who else? Steve Jobs is another one they highlight. Jobs wasn't, soldering circuit boards or writing the code himself.
Yeah.
His genius, as the sources frame it, was spotting potential, refining ideas, often ideas from elsewhere, providing this intense vision, and then building this narrative,
Yeah.
this story that Apple's products under him were revolutionary, game-changing.
He was a master presenter.
A master curator and presenter of innovation, yeah. He took the work of many and framed it through his specific vision.
And going even further back, figures like Louis XIV in France.
Oh, absolutely. A perfect example of separating direction from doing. Louis basically delegated the massive job of running the state finance, military, building Versailles to his ministers, talented administrators.
There's the heavy lifting.
They were deep in the details, yes. But Louis held all the power. He was the final word, the embodiment of the state itself, l'état c'est moi.
I am the state.
He owned the ultimate glory, even while others were doing the administrative sweating.
It's fascinating how that pattern repeats.
Huh?
Different fields, different times. Direct the talent, own the result. But, okay, let's get to the part that feels, well, tricky.
The ethics.
Yeah. How do you actually apply this today? In a way that works, but doesn't feel, exploitative. What do the sources suggest about doing this ethically?
Well, look, the sources are guides to power, not exactly moral philosophy texts, but they do offer practical advice on the how. It starts with building real teams.
Okay.
Surround yourself with people whose skills complement yours or are even better in areas you need help. It's admitting you can't be the best at everything.
Okay, build the team. Fine. Then what? The taking credit bit still feels awkward.
The sources suggest a kind of split. Credit your team internally, recognize them, reward them within the group, make sure you value their work, and they know it.
Right.
But when you present the final thing, the achievement externally, you as the leader, the director, you consolidate that win. You're the spokesperson for the group's success. The public story gets tied to your leadership.
So it's not about pretending they didn't do it, but about who represents the success to the outside world.
Exactly. That seems to be the idea. Another angle is this curate, combine, elevate approach. Very few ideas are totally brand new, right? A lot of innovation is remixing, applying old ideas in new ways, improving things. So by bringing your unique direction, your refinement to building blocks others provide, whether it's your team or just existing knowledge, you are adding value. You're shaping something new.
Ah, so the credit is for that final synthesis, the vision you imposed on it.
Yes, for the final product and its presentation, not necessarily every single raw ingredient.
And what about micromanagement? How does that fit, or rather not fit?
Oh, micromanagement is the absolute enemy of this law. It kills leverage. If you're always looking over shoulders, checking every detail, you're basically still doing the work yourself, just badly.
Right.
You give clear direction, set the standards, then you have to trust your people to handle the details. That frees up your time, your mental space for the big stuff. Strategy, networking, vision.
And the sources mentioned branding the result.
Yeah. When it's done, when the project work, the product launches. Step up. Be the one to announce it, talk about it, promote it. Attach yourself to that positive outcome. People link success to faces, to names. By being the public face of a win achieved by the group, you solidify your position, your power.
Okay, so strategically own the public narrative, value the team internally. It makes sense, but it also sounds like there are ways this could go very wrong.
Yeah.
What do the sources warn about? What are the traps here?
Well, the biggest warning is pretty clear. Don't engage in outright deception or, theft. This law is about leadership, directing effort. It's not about plagiarism.
Right.
You own the outcome, but you shouldn't lie about how it happened or claim you personally did things you didn't.
So don't say, I wrote all the code if you had a team of developers doing it.
Exactly that. The sources advise taking credit as the architect, maybe, but not the builder. You designed it, you guided it, but you don't claim you laid every single brick. That nuance is crucial.
Okay, what else? Well, definitely off limits.
Don't publicly trash or minimize your team's contributions. Ever. You might consolidate the external credit, yeah, but you absolutely need the loyalty and drive of the people doing the work.
Undermining them undermines you eventually.
Totally. Lift them up privately, make sure they feel valued within the system you lead. You shine because they do good work. Mess that up, and the whole thing collapses.
And the sources also say don't fake skills you don't actually have.
Right. This isn't a license to be incompetent. You still need to understand the work enough to direct it intelligently. Claiming expertise you lack or trying to lead something you don't grasp at a high level, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Your power comes from the strategic insight, the direction, not from pretending you know everything.
Exactly.
That architect versus builder distinction feels really key here.
Hmm.
So, okay, for someone listening right now, how could they start thinking about using this idea? From the sources, I mean, in their own life, or whatever they do.
Well, start small maybe. Just look at where your time actually goes. Are there tasks you always do yourself that, honestly, someone else could do? Maybe even better.
Like what?
Depends on what you do, right? If you're a creator, maybe AI tools could do a first draft or help with editing. Could you get a virtual assistant for scheduling or research? Delegate things, outsource things, use tools.
Hmm.
Focus your own energy on the core message, the big idea, the strategy, the final polish. The stuff only you can really do.
For entrepreneurs, this sounds like classic delegation, doesn't it? Getting out of the weeds.
Absolutely. It's the classic difference between working in your business versus working on your business. To work on it, you have to step back from doing all the tasks. You need to focus on growth, strategy, direction,
Mhm.
often through your team.
And even if you're not an entrepreneur, say in a team at work or even school.
Yeah, definitely. Think about group projects. How can you leverage everyone's effort? Maybe you're really good at putting information together and presenting it clearly. While someone else is maybe better at digging up the raw data, position yourself to be the one who takes all those pieces and makes them into one strong final report or presentation. Be the one who communicates the group's success outwards.
It's about finding where your unique input gives the most leverage.
Exactly. And focusing there while enabling others to shine in their own areas.
So what does this all mean? What we've explored today from your sources, it really highlights that power isn't just about how much you personally sweat. It's so much about perception, about strategic direction, and effectively using the skills of others.
The powerful people, they aren't always the ones laying every single brick. They're often the architect, right? Or,
Right.
like the sources say, the conductor.
Yeah.
The conductor leads the whole orchestra, doesn't play every instrument, but is the one who takes the final bow. Law 7 is basically saying, aim to be that conductor. Guide the talent, don't just be the drummer banging out your own
Back
part.
to the conductor, not the drummer. I like that.
This raises an important question then. Thinking about this whole idea of leverage, of being the director, where in your own life right now are you maybe spending valuable time on tasks others could handle? And how might shifting your position, focusing more on directing, on owning the final outcome, how might that unlock, greater impact, more opportunity for you? It's definitely something worth pondering as you move forward.